What is up, YouTube? We are back breaking down this UFC 324 pay-per-view, but not Paramount debut. 6-week hiatus. Insane. I almost retired. I almost gave it all up, but then contract got extended. I'm back. I'm better than ever. We are here. A lot going on. We're trying to bring it back better than ever. We got 12 fights. Was supposed to be more. Of course, the big news of today is Cameron Smotherman died on the scale. It was scary. It was tragic. They need to implement new weight cut rules. And then we also lost one of the potential fight of the years. Very devastating in Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison. Very, very tough scene that we lost that fight. I know a lot of people were looking forward to it. Even my colleague Shots was really looking forward to that fight. Shots.
Incorrect. That is complete fallacy. Um, I don't know.
Fair.
Tough that we lost it, but
Very
it can
tough
always
that we
be
lost it.
rescheduled. It can
It,
always be rescheduled.
it could, but then the division is stale, and that division you need to get moving. There's a lot of up and comers you're looking at women's bantamweight. That's a tough, tough loss right over there, you know. So
It is a tough loss, but with the division that's so stale as it is, they ain't hurting that bad. Let's get on to it. Let's get into some real fights.
here we go.
2026. We are back.
We're so back. We're so back. First fight on the card, we got Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller. Wait, hold on. I gotta do my random hunt of the day is going to be. We are looking at. I beer no. Gemsbach Verhonga. I already have a diamond in that, so we're respinning that wheel again. Hold on, hold on. And we are gonna be doing. I already have Blue Wildebeest diamond. Damn, I'm just too good at this game. My goodness, we gotta get something new. We haven't gotten diamond in yet. Let's see, guy. Grizzly Bear in Yukon we're looking at. Perfect. Let's start that up. But yeah, first fight we got Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller. Tim, shots, thoughts?
Thoughts?
What do you think?
It's a pretty wide line on this first one. Miller making his UFC debut, no? Or
That's what
no?
I'm hearing. Word on the street. I don't remember. I think from what I've seen on the weigh-in show this morning, he is from Contender Series of last year in 2025. Apparently, he went to war with some guy and he looked really well. Fuji at this point, I mean, I don't know if you remember, this guy is just in the UFC to be given to debutants that are just gonna put him through a blender and just get a good win, you know. Fujit's last fight, I believe, was against that Islam Dulatov guy who was a model on the side, destroyed him in like 30 seconds, and then I mean before that, Fujit's fought Mallet back when they were trying to hype up Mallet. So yeah, Fujit shouldn't even be in the UFC. And with that being said, I'm going to have to go with Ty Miller, second round KO, getting it done. Not as early as a Dulatov, but, you know, it won't take him too long to find that shot to get Fuji out of there. What do you think, Shots?
I have to agree with you on that one. Miller, minus 450 favorite.
Oh, wow,
He's
minus
he's
450.
he's he's got a clear path of victory here. He's gonna TKO him second round. Heard it here first.
Wow, there we go. And then on to the next fight, we got some life in the heavyweight division. We have Josh Hockett, another Dana White's Contender Series guy from last year, versus Denzel Freeman. If you guys don't remember Denzel Freeman, literally a month or two ago, he was the first fight on the card, and he literally did absolutely nothing against some other BJJ heavyweight, where they just stood there and stared at each other for 3 rounds. And Haka is a Chael Sonnen wannabe, but he at least has the talent to kind of back it up thus far. Shots, what are you thinking here, guy?
I'm gonna stay far away from anything in this fight, but I would have personally go dog or pass on this one.
Interesting. All right. All right. Well, heavyweights, a lot of skepticism with them. I'm not buying too much into the hype right now, but I do think that Josh Hockett is talented enough to get past Denzel Freeman, and I think he does it in the first round. That's how I'm rocking with this one. So Hockett puts this guy in and out, and sends it back to the Marine Corps. There we go. On to the next fight. Alexander Hernandez versus Michael Johnson. Some would say Battle of the Unks at this point. Hernandez has been a vet for about 10 years now in the UFC already. Crazy, what a life. And then Michael Johnson's been around for like 15 plus years. So, very competitive lightweight matchup over here. I don't know, Shots. What are you thinking over here? This
Uh,
one is dicey. This one is probably, in my
this
opinion, the one you stay away from.
this is an exciting fight here. Who knows with either of these fighters what version of them you're gonna get, but if if you get Michael Johnson on a good day, it's it's hard to not want to pick for him. So, and him being the underdog, that's gonna be my pick there. We'll probably go. I'll probably just rock decision on that one.
Yeah, I think
Risky
that's
fight.
a yeah, that's a good call for sure, especially like I said, a lot of it's basically a 50-50 in my eyes, I mean, if we're talking recency bias, actually, well, both of them are coming off of pretty impressive wins, but Hernandez has put together quite a streak in a good way for wins. I think he's beat Chase Hooper, Jim Miller might be in that streak, but that was on the earlier side of that streak. And then he just beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, who a lot of people think is still a problem, still someone underrated in that division. But Michael Johnson coming off a really good win against a really tall, lanky, big lightweight in Daniel Zellhuber. With that being said, I'm gonna go Johnson, third round KO. I can see this being one of those weird ones where Hernandez is winning most of the fight, and then Johnson just cracks him with that left over the top and just puts him away, and then absolute fireworks. So that fight is definitely one to watch out for, no doubt about it. But yeah, that's probably, in my opinion, the one you want to stay away from as of right now. Maybe that changes as the video continues. But on to the next fight. Charles Johnson versus Alex Perez. Pretty interesting fight. Charles Johnson is finally getting his shot back into the rankings. Probably the most underrated flyweight on the roster right now in terms of resume. Um, but I do have to add in Shots. Perez missed weight by 2 pounds today. They are still letting the fight go on. However, obviously, you got the purse deduction. What are you thinking here, man?
Well, Prez coming off 2 fight skid here, looking to get back on the right track. Charles Johnson, worst haircut in the UFC.
It's true.
Um,
We're on street. That is true.
you know, I don't know. With Perez, you'd think that he would be really locked in after losing on his last two. Coming in, missing weight, not really the greatest look here. I'm gonna look for a third round or decision KO for Charles Johnson here.
I like that. So third decision is live for Johnson. It's usually a good bet with these smaller weight class fights, and you usually hit on those, no?
It's one of my favorites to bet.
It's a good one. I might be
One of my
rocking with you right
favorites.
then and there on that one. I think with me, just going off of that Charles Johnson resume, only guy to beat Joshua Van in the UFC. Um, Arguably should have won against Razaman Temirov, who popped for steroids in a really, really close fight. I still think I gave that to Temerov, but it was very, very close. Charles Johnson's no joke. So Perez, I worry about the durability. Like you kind of said, I worry about the motivation. Missing weight is a horrible look, and I don't think him missing weight and having that 2 pound advantage over Johnson's really gonna help him in this case. I am gonna be leaning Johnson decision. I don't see a finish from either of these guys, but I could see this being somewhat of a fun fight. So we'll see what happens there. On to the next fight, though. We got Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Interesting fight. Kind of could help with the state of a pretty weak light heavyweight division. And that's more so if Bukauskas were to win. Shots, thoughts. What are you thinking here, guy?
Honestly, the once Krylov, you'd think that he would come in, make a little splash in the light heavyweight division, but I'm I'm gonna be rocking Batalskis here. You know, I'm also going to be pretty heavy on the first round KO for him. So very
Okay.
very live here, first round KO, Batalskis.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, you can go off of the recency bias over here with Krylov. He's not eating these shots as well as I guess you could say he used to. Not that he ever had the greatest chin, but I think Bukauskas, he's got such a different story. I guess you could say he got cut after he got oblique kicked by Roundtree. Went on like a streak within a year where he won like 4 fights. UFC brought him back. He's continuing the streak. He's looking better. I don't know if I'd say he's future champion or contender, but with Krylov's very questionable durability, I think I got to rock Bukauskas as well. But I think it's going to be second round KO on this one. But first round KO is very, very live. That's probably what you are going to be looking for if you're looking for, I guess, a lock in this fight. So I like that pick over there by shots. I'm going to go second round. I just have a feeling it's going to last a little longer than some of us would have think, but it's definitely going to be the Bukauskas side over here. On to the next fight. Ateba Gauthier versus Andre Puliev. Both technically prospects. One obviously way bigger than the other, and the odds will definitely tell you that. Shots, I feel like this one shouldn't take too long to decide unless you're going to hit me with the curveball here. What are you thinking here?
Uh, his one you're probably gonna want to try not do anything crazy with.
Nah,
Don't leave
absolutely
him
not.
out of your parlays. But
No.
I don't know. It's pretty obvious here. First round KO.
Yeah. First round KO Gauthier.
Gauthier.
That's why I got. This guy is probably the future. I mean, obviously, they're just throwing him against cans as of right now, so it's still hard to gauge. We don't know what he looks like on the ground. We don't know what his takedown defense looks like. But as of right now, until they give him a pretty steep step up in competition, I have to rock Gautier here. And first round KO is absolutely live. This guy really is mini Ngannou. It's crazy. Um, Shots, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to doubt that this guy's 24 years old. Birth certificate's
I
incorrect.
might have a little sneaky suspicion that you're right on that one.
Yes, getting Albert Pujols type vibes, on this
Yes.
one guy. But yeah, Gautier first round KO. Need I say more? No. On to the next fight. Davison Figueiredo versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Um, this now, obviously, we don't know what the line's going to look like after the weight miss. Figueiredo was another guy where he missed weight dramatically by 2.5 pounds. Just also forfeiting the purse, but fight is still on. Even though I thought Umar was definitely winning this, how was Figueiredo a plus 750 underdog is kind of beyond me. I think Umar's good. I think he should win this. Don't get me wrong, but I think that line is way off. Shots, what do you think? Do you agree with the line Umar minus 1,000 before the weight cut or the weight miss? on Figueiredo's side?
Um, I mean, I can kind of understand 1,000 is dramatically high, especially for, you know, Umar is very good, but his hype has died down a little bit since that Marab loss.
True.
Went 3 round decision with Batista. So, um, no, I think the line is way bigger than it should be, and
Hmm.
I think it's actually all the way up to 1,400 at this point. So,
Oh gosh.
kinda,
So. Oh
kinda
wow.
makes this fight a hard one. You're really gonna have to pick and choose a little sprinkle to try and make any type of money, but I'm sure the line is blown out of proportion for Umar decision. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm rocking Umar decision. Um, I'm not gonna lie, even though the weight cut doesn't really change, this is one of those fights where I'm like Figueiredo having a. I mean, depending on how tough that cut was, which obviously I'd imagine was pretty tough, but I think Figueiredo having a few extra pounds on Umar might still benefit him. Not enough where I think Umar would lose, but that is one of those rare weight misadvantages where I'm like, okay, that could actually benefit Figueiredo a little bit more than we would think, especially with how horrible he looked on the scale. But yeah, line is definitely off. I if I after the weight miss, I would think like a minus 400 Umar makes sense. Plus 330 Davison, something along the lines of that. Prior weight miss, if Figueiredo would have made weight, I would have said probably still minus 300 Umar. I really do think it is kind of like that. Umar's just a younger fighter, very dynamic. But Figueiredo always got power and sneaky submission skills, even though I doubt that will really have an effect in this fight. We'll see what happens there. But on to the main card. Arnold Allen versus John Silva. Some are saying this is Battle of the Tisms. I've been seeing this on the streets. Shots, thoughts.
I 100% agree. Um, but I'm going to be going Arnold Allen here with a little sprinkle on a 3rd round KO, but most likely going to be rocking his 3rd decision. I, John Silva video of him screaming at the belt recently popping up. It's just
Oh, when he was
the
crying with the belt.
cringiest video there is out there. So,
He's always
um,
crying. He's all bark, no bite, no pun intended. But yeah, this guy is something else.
I I think he's I think he's gonna have a tough matchup here, a little closer than the lines are showing. So
Yeah, and what are the lines showing? They're not showing on my end. I mean, I'd imagine Silva with the hype probably is
Silva
some sort
minus
of.
275.
I don't know how I feel
So
about that. Um,
Arnold Allen plus 225 money line should have some good value there.
yeah, definitely some good value. I kind of understand why the line is like that, just with some of these weird factors. Allen did not fight at all in 2025, and I think before that it was like July of 24 against Evloev, or it was somewhere around there. I know that. So we don't know which version of Arnold Allen we will get. He is one of those guys that's very well rounded. You never he doesn't really get smoked, honestly. Even in that Holloway fight a few years ago, he I think he definitely won a round and might have won two, and that's kind of back when Holloway was like right there with Volkanovski at featherweight. So Allen's just a guy you don't want to sleep on, but I think John Silva's striking and the power is a little worrisome. I could see this being Allen having the side of the volume and just, kind of getting better at some of these exchanges, but then Silva just cracks him, once or twice every round and just based off of damage can kind of pull this one away. And if it is that close, I think it's one of those where, you know, the UFC would prefer a John Silva winning than Arnold Allen. You know, not saying that that will completely sway a whole decision here, but you know, it's possible, and I do think it's fairly close. You know, so yeah, I like John Silva decision here just based off of that. But I would love for Arnold Allen to prove me wrong and get this stupid dog idiot out of the UFC title picture, little crybaby whiny boy, you know. So that's why I'm rocking Silva decision. Shots got Allen decision, sprinkle in the third round KO as well, which isn't bad, you know, considering Silva's just no defense running at you, just throwing everything. So, on to the next fight. Legitimate fight of the year contender in the first week. Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Last year, my New Year's resolution was never bet more than $5 on a women's fight unless her name is Natalia Silva, and that will still be the case here. However, for me, Rose is always tricky, and even though I think she's not as good at flyweight as she is strawweight, I do kind of worry a little bit because sometimes Rose does have some decent game plans. However, that won't sway me. Shots, I'm going Silva decision here. Just bounce around on the back foot, just picking Rose apart. Rose can't close the distance as well as she's used to. And it's just going to be a somewhat pretty boring 30-27, maybe a 29-28 gets in there, but I got Silva decision.
Well, this will be my absolute lock of the year for me. Um, I will be doing exactly as I will be doing right now on fight night, and I'm going to take a piss break.
Hmm, interesting. Piss break, 4 shots there. So no money. That's a no go. That's probably his 1-800 gambler thing. But I'm rocking Silva decision. She should have got a title shot next, but obviously she's stepping up, right? I think Rose is supposed to face Garasso, so Natalia Silva stepping up and doing this is huge. Great, and like no matter how she wins, she has to be next at flyweight. There's no other way around it. She is next if she wins. If she loses, that sucks because all the hype is kind of destroyed. But we'll see what happens. On to the next fight, we got Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Now, this one I've been jumping back and forth, but I am going to stick with this as of right now. This is going to pain me. I'm sure I'll probably hedge this with something, but I'm rocking with Cortez Acosta. Decision just is not in the pocket with Derek Lewis at all. Just leg kicks at range, just aggravating Lewis and annoying Lewis. And I just don't think that this is going to be good for Derek Lewis. I think this is way different than a Towson Teixeira matchup. This is where Cortez Acosta solidifies him as next, barring that Alex Pereira or John Jones doesn't come back. Cortez Acosta is next for a title, even though it shouldn't be that, but the streak that he's had, it's going to be Cortez Acosta winning this one by decision. But I could see it being one of those where it's like similar to the Tai Tuivasa Derek Lewis fight, where you know Derek's throwing heavy in the beginning, and you know Ty was throwing with him, but then Derek gasses out and just kind of quits, gets annoyed, and then you know second round or third round KO for Cortez Acosta. So maybe I'll throw a little bit on that, but I'm going to go with decision here. I really think that Cortez Acosta is going to really respect the power of Derek Lewis, and it's going to be somewhat of a lackluster fight in my opinion, which sucks because that is one that you should be looking forward to, but. We'll see Cortez Acosta there. Shots, thoughts.
I completely agree with your last part there. This it's going to kind of be, as what would one think, a banger of a fight. I think it is going to be on the boring side, and you're not going to miss too much in this fight. It's
No.
probably going to be looking at a Derek Lewis slowing down. Father Time's on his side at this point. It's time for the new age of the heavyweight division coming in there, and I will also be throwing in an over of 2 that um, DC will mention that Cortez Acosta throws over 100 miles an hour.
That's usually a Bisping line, but I could see DC throwing in some baseball references there. Okay, fair game. Yeah, you can probably bet that on Poly Market, like you can bet anything
Yep.
else. So that's not a bad way to kind of sprinkle it in, especially if you're trying to stay away from this fight. If you're like us, you're thinking that's going to be boring. That is a good way to kind of keep yourself entertained. Just listen for two DC Cortez Acosta references regarding baseball and how fast he throws. Probably win some decent money on Poly Market, however that works. But Cortez Acosta decision seems to be the way we're going here. And then just like that, we are on the co-main event. Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Shots, you want to go first on your breakdown here, or you want me to? Because I kind of have a little bit to say about this, honestly.
All right, I'll let you finish it off then.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be quite an interesting fight. Mally is a little more favored than I would have thought he would be, but I do think O'Malley gets this one done, decision. Um, but it's gonna be interesting to see how Song fares versus him. Got to be two of the tougher guys in the division going at it, and it'll set up what bantamweight's going to be looking like for the rest of 2026 here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot at stake. Honestly, just with this night in general, bantamweight, because if Umar wins too, he's right there again. Um, oh, that's a pretty big moose. But yeah, so a lot going on for the bantamweight division in this first Paramount card, which is really exciting. Um, I think with this fight, if O'Malley is motivated, I think this is easy money, even though Song Yadong is very well rounded. He's still very young. It's just, I'm hearing word on the street. Word on the street is O'Malley is very motivated, I know some connects that are like training with him and stuff. Apparently he's on, so we'll see. But my thing that about this fight is, Song Yadong, like I said, one, we haven't seen Yadong in almost a year since the Henry Cejudo fight, where he looked pretty good, but, at the same time, it's Cejudo, and Cejudo's not anywhere near what he used to be. If Yadong mixes up the grappling, he might have a shot, but, O'Malley does have some very underrated grappling, especially submissions off his back and everything. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. It kind of comes down to more of the mentality side and how much Song Yadong has grown. Song Yadong just turned 27 or 28. No, I think he just turned 28, I believe, a few months ago. So he's still very young. Um, But I don't know. I think the safe pick here, which I'm going to be rocking with, is going to be O'Malley decision. I'm very curious now that we're getting closer to this fight to see how this plays out because I don't think Song Yadong, even if O'Malley's very on, is going to be an easy out. I think it's going to be very competitive, but if I have a bad feeling, it's going to stay on the feet for most of the time, and O'Malley's just gonna, show why he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. So, and unfortunately, with all that being said as well, this will probably set up a Jan and O'Malley at the White House, even though it is fairly unwarranted. But I get it. It's a business. They got to put on the biggest fights, and that is technically one of the biggest fights you can do. So I'm rocking O'Malley decision here. But pretty competitive fight, but it's not going to be like a split decision. It's just going to be O'Malley just kind of gets the better of him. But Song shows that he's got potential still in the sport at 28 years old. But on to the main event. interim lightweight championship. Patty Pimblett, Justin Gaethje, shots. What are you thinking for the last fight over here?
This two great fights in this card, but gonna be another tough one, honestly. I think a lot of people want to see Gaethje win. A lot of people want to see Patty win, but I don't know. Gaethje, absolute dog. I think a lot of people want to put trust in Patty and believe that he's really good, me included, but there's just still, still that little bit of doubt of Patty. So I'm going to be rocking Gaethje decision. And I think if Patty comes out and wins this fight, um, it's hard to say that he's not one of the best guys in the lightweight division.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think so. Shots, you've known me for a while. You know, I've been very critical of Pimblett. I've always thought he's been overrated. And this kind of just all stems from the first UFC fight I've seen from him, which is kind of unfair to. And I don't really hold this bias anymore, but when I've seen him head up, chin up, swinging hooks against Luigi Vandermini or whatever his name was, and almost get KO'd. I was like, this guy will never reach the top. He's got got absolutely gifted a decision against Jared Gordon. Granted, that was like over
Poor
3 years
guy.
ago at this point.
Poor guy.
Yes, poor guy, very bad. And then the UFC has done him favors, and they've done it in a good way. They've given him these older guys with somewhat big names to kind of build up the star profile. So when you look at the resume from afar without diving in too deep, you see Bobby Green, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler. But at the same time, with the ages of these guys, I think it's a little concerning. I think to your point, still a lot of gray area over here. I do, even though I'm a Patty hater, I do give him credit for the Chandler win. He made that look a lot easier than I thought he was going to. But at the same time, I do think that at this point in his career, Gaethje is a level above Chandler. The whole time I was kind of writing off Gaethje, but then I'm kind of thinking back to that second physique fight and, some of these crazy shots he can land in the clinch. So, with Patty still, his striking defense has gotten better, and still a lot of time for Gaethje to, find one of these uppercuts or find one of these hooks. So, and Gaethje's not easy to put down, but my issue is on the Gaethje side is if he gets taken down, how does he get back up or how does he survive on the ground? And that is my problem. And for that, I have to rock Patty, second round sub. I could see Gaethje doing really well first round. Patty just getting his reads, not doing too much. Second round, some weird fluke takedown because Patty's MMA takedowns aren't even that good. Some weird thing like off of a trip or something. Maybe Gaethje loses footing. Patty's immediately on the back, gets a rear naked choke, and just like that, Patty Pimblett sets up a fight with Ilya Taporia at some point in the next few months, box office, and that will be the end of Gaethje's career. So, um, that right there is the outlier for me. It's like, even though Gaethje has great takedown defense, if he does get fluked into a takedown, I don't think he gets up. And it's it's great for the sport to see Patty, and O'Malley and all these guys win. It hurt the mental a little bit, but at the same time, you got to respect the new generation and what they're doing to build their brand to get back into these title pictures. So, should be interesting. Should be a great card. My lock of the card is going to be Gautier first round KO, no brainer there. My stay away fight on the card is probably the John Silva and Arnold Allen fight. That one, or the Michael Johnson Alexander Hernandez one will be my stay away from fight. Um, those are my 2 cents. Shots, any final thoughts before we end this?
Any final thoughts? I think it's going to be a really good card. It'll be interesting to see how the Paramount deal starts off for the year. And Aldo Costa Cortez, my lock of the card.
Dang, all right. Cortez Acosta, lock of the card. You heard it here first. And what's your stay away from fight of the card? Still haven't come up with the term of what I'm going to call that. But
The piss break,
yeah,
it's going to be Natalia Silva Rose Namajunas.
fair. The only women's fight on the card.
I
Absolutely
know it
fair.
pains you. I know it
It's
pains
all
you.
right. It's all right. My girl, she will show people. She will show that she is the next one. She is the one. So,
No, but in seriousness, I would probably stay away from the Umar fight. It's
yeah,
just the
just
odds
what.
at 1400 is absolutely ridiculous. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who it is. You shouldn't be taking anybody at that.
Am
So
I diabolical
stay
for
away from
thinking
it.
to throw a couple dollars on Figueiredo? Am I? I don't
You
know.
might as well. I mean, it might be a
Yeah.
complete donation, but you might as well.
Yeah, well, only a couple dollars, so it's like it couldn't be too bad because if that line is that ridiculous, I just seen Umar get dropped by Bautista, who has way less power than Figueiredo, but obviously with the factors and all that, we have a pretty active Umar too, which is pretty cool. He just fought a couple months ago, so I gotta give him props there, but we'll see what happens. Um, you know, it will be very interesting. But other than that, YouTube, I'm so glad we're back. Contract extended. It's been real. We got the special guest appearance for the first episode of the year. Incredible. Who would have thought? But until then, probably we're going to break down or recap. Depending on how the fights go, if the fights go really well, I'll probably recap Sunday. If they go pretty poor, I'll probably just, drag my nuts for a few more days, and then I'm probably looking at Monday, Tuesday, where we recap it. And for future reference, what I'm going to start to do, I think Fridays are going to be the breakdowns. I prefer to see how things look after the weigh-ins. It's also my off day, so it's just easier for me to coordinate and do the videos. Maybe that subject will change, but as of right now, that might be a fixed thing where Fridays are breakdowns, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is usually the recap. So, other than that, YouTube, it's been real, and we will see you in a couple days. Goodbye.